The Senate will come to order. Mr. Carpenter, please call the roll.
Senators Bridges, Cook, Quorum, Court, Crowder, Danielson, Donovan, Bimberg, Fields, Foote, Gardner, Janal, Gonzalez, Hill, Heisey, Holbert, Holbert,
Excused.
Lee, Lundeen, Marble, Moreno, Pedersen, Priola, Priola,
Absent.
Rankin, Rodriguez, Scott, Smallwood, Sonnenberg, Story, Story, Tate, Todd, Williams, Winter, Woodward, Zinzinger, Priola, Holbert. Mr. President.
Here, with 35 present, 0 absent, 0 excused, we have a quorum. Senator Woodward, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Thank you, Mr. President. Guests in the audience, please stand and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the journal. Senator Winter.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the reading of the Journal of Monday, April 8th, 2019 be dispensed with and that the journal be approved as corrected by the Secretary.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Committee reports.
April 9, 2019, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration, Mayor's Committee conducts the following: Senate Bill 179, be amended as follows. This amendment be referred to Committee whole. The favorable recommendation. April 9, 2019, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration, Mayor's Committee conducts the following: Senate Bill 163, be referred to Committee whole. The favorable recommendation. April 9, 2019, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration, Mayor's Committee conducts the following: Senate Bill 160, be referred to Committee whole. The favorable recommendation. April 9, 2019, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration, Mayor's Committee conducts the following: Senate Bill 159, be referred to Committee whole. The favorable recommendation. Recommendation be placed on the consent calendar. April 9, 2019, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration, Mayor's Committee conducts the following: Senate Bill 155, be referred to Committee whole. The favorable recommendation. Recommendation placed on the consent calendar. April 9, 2019, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration, Mayor's Committee conducts the following: Senate Bill 146, be referred to Committee whole. The favorable recommendation. Recommendation placed on the consent calendar. April 9, 2019, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration, Mayor's Committee conducts the following: Senate Bill 145, be referred to Committee whole. The favorable recommendation. Recommendation placed on the consent calendar. April 9, 2019, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration, Mayor's Committee conducts the following: Senate Bill 54. The amendment as follows: as amendment be referred to Committee whole. The favorable recommendation. Recommendation placed on the consent calendar. April 9, 2019, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration, Mayor's Committee conducts the following: House Bill 1214 be referred to Committee whole. The favorable recommendation. Recommendation placed on the consent calendar. April 9, 2019, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration, Mayor's Committee conducts the following: House Bill 1128 be referred to Committee whole. The favorable recommendation. Recommendation placed on the consent calendar. April 9, 2019, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration, Mayor's Committee conducts the following: House Bill 1025 be referred to Committee whole. The favorable recommendation. April 9, 2019, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration, Mayor's Committee conducts the following: House Bill 1023 be amended as follows: as amended be referred to Committee whole. The favorable recommendation. Recommendation placed on the consent calendar. April 9, 2019, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of mayor's committee as following, House Bill 1010 be referred to committee of the whole with favorable recommendation. April 8th, 2019, Committee on State Vendors and Military Affairs. After consideration of mayor's committee as following, Senate Bill 229 be referred to committee of the whole with favorable recommendation. April 8th, 2019, Committee on State Vendors and Military Affairs. After consideration of mayor's committee as following, Senate Bill 230 be referred to committee of the whole with favorable recommendation. April 8th, 2019, Committee on State Vendors and Military Affairs. After consideration of mayor's committee as following, Senate Bill 196 be amended as follows as amended be referred to committee of the whole with favorable recommendation. April 8, 2019, the Committee on Business, Labor, and Technology has had in consideration, had hearing on the following appointment arguments. Appointment be placed on the consent calendar and confirmed. Executive Director of the Department of Personnel and Administration, effective immediately for term expiring with the pleasure of the Governor. Karavich of Denver, Colorado, appointed. April 8, 2019, the Committee on Business, Labor, and Technology has had in consideration, had hearing on the following appointment recommended. The appointment be placed on the consent calendar and confirmed. Member of the Workers' Compensation Cost Containment Board for a term expiring December 13, 2021. Megan Marie Strong of Thorne, Colorado, representing employers who have demonstrated good risk management experience with respect to their workers' compensation insurance, reappointed. April 8, 2019, Committee on Business, Labor, and Technology, after consideration of mayor's committee as following. House Bill 1118, be referred to committee to hold a favorable recommendation.
Senate Services.
Correctly engrossed, Senate Bill 187, Resolution 7, correctly re-engrossed, Senate Bill 170 and 200, correctly revised, House Bill 1030 and 1208, correctly revised, House Bill 1087, 1206, 1207, 1213, 1225, and 1238, correctly enrolled, Senate Bill 5291, 183, 209, 210, 211, and 212, Senate Resolution 7.
Members, would you please join me in welcoming back to the Senate Senator Kevin Lundberg, who's joining us here today. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate proceed out of order to consideration of resolutions.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The motion is adopted, and the Senate will proceed out of order for consideration of resolutions. Consideration of resolutions. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to Senate Joint Resolution 007.
Senate Joint Resolution 7 by Senator Moreno and Representative Crafthorpe concerning designation of the first full week of May as Tardive Dyskinesia Awareness Week.
Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Joint Resolution 7 and request that it be read at length.
Mr. Carpenter, please read Senate Joint Resolution 007 at length.
Senate Joint Resolution 7 by Senator Moreno and Representative Crafthorpe concerning designation of the first full week of May as Tardive Dyskinesia Awareness Week. Whereas many people with serious chronic mental illness, such as schizophrenia and other schizoaffective disorders, bipolar disorder, or severe depression, require treatment with medications that work as dopamine receptor blocking agents, DRBAs, including antipsychotics. And whereas, while ongoing treatment with these medications can be very helpful and even life-saving, for many people it can also lead to tardive dyskinesia, TD. And whereas, many people who have gastrointestinal disorders, including gastroparesis, nausea, and vomiting, also require treatment with DRBAs. And whereas, treatment of gastrointestinal disorders with DRBAs can be very helpful, but for many patients can lead to TD. And whereas, TD is a movement disorder that is characterized by random, involuntary, and uncontrolled movements of different muscles in the face, trunk, and extremities. And whereas, in some cases, people with TD experience involuntary and uncontrolled movement of the arms, legs, fingers, toes, tongue, lips, or jaw, swaying movements of the trunk or hips, or impacts to the muscles associated with walking, speech, eating, and breathing. And whereas TD can develop months, years, or decades after a person starts taking DRBAs, and even after the person has discontinued use of such medications. And whereas not everyone who takes a DRBA develops TD, but if TD develops, it is often permanent. And whereas common risk factors for TD include advanced age, alcoholism, substance abuse disorders, being postmenopausal, and mood disorders. And whereas a person is at higher risk for TD after taking DRBAs for 3 months or longer, and the longer a person takes DRBAs, the higher the risk of developing TD. And whereas studies suggest that the overall risk of developing TD following prolonged exposure to DRBAs is between 10 and 30%. And whereas it is estimated that approximately 500,000 individuals in the United States suffer from TD. And whereas years of challenging research have resulted in scientific advancements since 2017 with 2 new treatments for TD approved by the United States Food and Drug Administration. And whereas TD is often unrecognized and patients suffering from the illness are commonly misdiagnosed. And whereas patients taking DRBAs should see their healthcare providers for regular evaluations to ensure that any signs of TD are recognized. And whereas patients with TD often suffer embarrassment due to abnormal and involuntary movements, which leads them to withdraw from society and isolate themselves as the disease progresses. And whereas the caregivers of patients with TD face many challenges and are often responsible for the overall care of the TD patient. Now therefore be it resolved by the Senate of the 72nd General Assembly of the State of Colorado, the House of Representatives concurring herein, that the first full week of May is proclaimed Tardive Dyskinesia Awareness Week, with the goals of raising awareness of this potentially debilitating disease, encouraging individuals not afflicted with TD to consider the effects of TD on individuals and society, and encouraging Coloradans to contribute to charities supporting TD research and awareness. Be it further resolved that copies of this joint resolution be sent to the Colorado chapter of the National Alliance on Mental Illness, Mental Health Colorado, the Colorado Governor's Office, the Department of Healthcare Policy and Financing, the Department of Public Health and Environment, and the Office of Saving People Money on Healthcare, and the Office of the Ombudsman for Behavioral Health Access to Care.
Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, please be seated. The only real reason I asked Mr. Carpenter to read it at length was to see if he could pronounce all of the different terms in the resolution. You did a great job, Mr. Carpenter. Colleagues, mental health awareness is the month of May, and this resolution declares the first week of May to be Tardive Dyskinesia Week. This is a relatively unknown and often mistaken disease for other disorders that might have similar symptoms. It's a movement disorder, and it's a side effect for folks who take, for long-term, take antipsychotic medications. It's a debilitating disease, and it's one that we should be more aware of and that we should encourage all the folks in Colorado to be more aware of. We want to recognize that the unique challenges and the side effects that our mental health population often face in long-term medication use. While tardive dyskinesia is incurable, it is often treatable. In recent years, there's been scientific breakthroughs to treat tardive dyskinesia, and we want to recognize those breakthroughs. We also want to encourage patients to stay informed and to communicate with their healthcare providers about tardive dyskinesia. We don't want TD to ever be a reason why someone would not take their medication. With that, I ask for the Senate to adopt this resolution and to declare the first week of May as Tardive Dyskinesia Week in recognition of our fellow Coloradans who are not only facing mental illness, but also this movement disorder. Thank you, Mr. President.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of Senate Joint Resolution 007. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, Senate Joint Resolution 007 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request that the current roll call be added as co-sponsors.
Seeing no objection, the current roll call will be added as co-sponsors as requested. Third reading of bills. Final passage. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to House Bill 1208.
House Bill 1208 by Representative Singer and Landgraf, Senators Fields and Gardner, concerning the designation of physical therapists as healthcare providers for the purpose of ensuring compliance with required head trauma guidelines and organized youth athletic activities.
Senator Fields.
Mr. President, I move House Bill 1208 on third reading and final passage.
Is there further discussion? Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, this is the bill concerning the designation of physical therapists as healthcare providers who can ensure compliance with required head trauma guidelines in order to organize youth activities. We are adding physical therapists to the current statute. In light of that, there was some question about whether a further rulemaking process would be required simply to add the physical therapist. It is our view that this is self-executing and would not need an extensive rulemaking process to simply add physical therapists to the DORA rules, as that is the add to the statute. And with that, I ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of House Bill 1208 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, House Bill 1208 is passed. Co-sponsors: Senators Marble, Crowder, Priola, Woodward, Story, Janal, Tate. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to House Bill 1030.
House Bill 1030 by Representatives Soper and Roberts and Senators Rankin and Zenzinger concerning creating the crime of unlawful electronic sexual communication.
Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1030 on third reading and ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of House Bill 1030 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senators Gonzalez, Rodriguez. With 33 ayes, 2 no votes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, House Bill 1030 is passed. Co-sponsors: Senators Danielson, Moreno, Quorum, Bridges, Pedersen, Minority Leader, Foote, Marble, Crowder, Lundeen, Priola, Cook, Woodward, Smallwood, Tate, Scott, Heisey, Court, Gardner, Fields.
Want to be on 1030?
Sonnenberg,
Here's your chance.
Todd,
Maybe not.
Story.
Come out by staying away from it.
Please add the president. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to Senate Bill 187.
Senate Bill 187 by Senators Lee and Gardner and Representatives Byrd and McKean concerning commissions on judicial performance.
Senator Lee.
Thank you, Mr. President. We move Senate Bill 187 on third reading and ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of Senate Bill 187 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, Senate Bill 187 is passed. Co-sponsors: Senator Tate, General Order, second reading of bills, consent. Senator Fields.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of general orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The motion is adopted. The Senate will resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of general orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar, and Senator Fields will take the chair.
The committee will come to order and the court rule is relaxed. Will the clerk please read the title of all the bills on the general order, second reading of bills, consent calendar?
House Bill 1178 by Representative McLaughlin and Senator Donovan concerning the name simplification of Western State Colorado University to Western Colorado University.
Majority Leader Finberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move for the adoption of all the bills on the consent calendar, which only includes House Bill 1178.
Is there any discussion on any of the bills on the consent calendar? The motion before the body is the adoption of all the bills on the general order, second reading of bills, consent calendar. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bill is adopted. Majority Leader Finberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
The motion before the committee is to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. The committee will rise and report.
The Senate will come to order. Senator Fields.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee had one bill under consideration. Will the clerk please read the report?
Mr. President, your committee will begs lead reports that in consideration of the following test bills being second thereof makes the following recommendation on House Bill 1178 pass second order revised place calendar for the reading and final passage.
Senator Fields.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the report.
The motion is for the adoption of the committee of the whole report. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, the committee of the whole report is adopted. House Bill 1178 passed on second reading, ordered revised, placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. General order, second reading of bills. Senator Fields.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate resolve itself into the committee of the whole for the consideration of general orders, second reading of bills.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. The Senate will resolve itself into the committee of the whole for considerations of general order, second reading of bills, and Senator Fields will take the chair.
The committee will come to order, and the court rule. The committee will come to order, and the court rule is relaxed. Will the clerk please read the title of House Bill 1217?
House Bill 1217 by Representative Becker and Senators Court and Tate concerning the elimination of the 2% increase in the member contribution rate to the Public Employees Retirement Association for members in the local government division of the association.
Senator Court.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Folks, those of you who were here last year when we did the big, huge para fix, remember that we had amendments coming and going and flying and flying. And oh yes, and I have to move the bill, which I do. I move House Bill 1217. So, as I said, we had all these amendments flying around, and one of them was because the local division is well funded and on its way to being fully funded way sooner than the 30 years. I think it was on its way to be fully funded in like 15 or so years. The local division, which is a minuscule part, 46,000 out of the overall 600,000 in para, asked that they not have to do the 2% increase because it wasn't necessary to make their division fully funded in the time frame we were looking at. And so that was agreed to. Unfortunately, that agreement didn't end up in the final bill. So the Division of Local Government came to several of us who had worked on the massive para bill last year and said, could you please fix that this year? And that's what 1270 does.
Is Senator Tate.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I appreciate my colleague from Denver providing those expository remarks. I can't speak to the prudence of this policy in a vacuum. All I can say is this is a commitment I made in the waning hours of the last day of the session last year, and I'm fulfilling what I apparently promised. Please vote yes.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of House Bill 1217. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and the bill is adopted. Will the clerk please read the title of House Bill 1080?
House Bill 1080 by Representative Bockenfeld and Senators Cook and Garcia concerning benefits for first responders with a disability.
Senator Cook.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Colleagues, we do quite a bit for our first responders in this state. We had a first responder resolution about a month or so ago, and this Thursday we're recognizing our fallen officers in this state. But we do very little, actually, for those that are permanently disabled. And we need to correct that problem, and 1080 does that. What 1080 does is gives free lifetime hunting and fishing passes to those that are permanently disabled, first responders that are permanently disabled in the line of duty. It also gives them a lifetime park pass to all Colorado State Park Pass. I mean, this is the least we can do for those that sacrifice so much. You know, we recognize those that have fallen in the line of duty and say they gave the ultimate sacrifice. Well, I would also say that those that are permanently injured on the job also gave the ultimate sacrifice. And I have a quick letter that I'd like to read from a wife of one of the fallen officers, or not fallen officers, but permanently disabled officers, into the record. And it says, "My name is Jana Holder, and her husband is here today, sitting on this side of the gallery, and with his son. My husband is Bill Holder, a disabled police officer in the line of duty. I am a former police officer and now spend my time helping to care for my husband, who paid a huge price protecting others. My husband has 5 titanium rods in his back and 2 in his neck from being hit head-on by a drunk driver in his patrol car. He cannot play ball with our kids, run with them, or do any daily activities." Oh, did I not do that?
Senator Cook.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before I continue reading, I would like to move House Bill 1080.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. His purpose in life was to serve others, and when he lost his career, he also lost that purpose. Not only did he lose that, but he lost the majority of his income, as did I, to tend to him. The bill represents so much more than most can imagine. It represents recognition of those who served and protected us and lost everything doing that. It helps them on days when they can to go enjoy a day out with their families at the state parks. It helps them use fishing ramps already in place, the small luxuries that they need to help them going. The other part of this bill helps them, gives them purpose. It allows them to serve in local schools or other areas to work off their part of the property tax. And this is already in place for disabled vets. The standard set in this bill for first responders to be ruled as on-duty permanent disability causing the loss of their career is a high standard. FPPA sends an individual to these separate doctors that have a rule that the injury is permanent and caused on duty as well as being disabling. A fourth doctor then has to agree with those findings before it is voted on by the committee to determine if the injury was caused while on duty and while permanently disabling, causing them to no longer work as a first responder. It is not something easily obtained as a standard that the people can slip through. This bill, or the cost of this bill, is minimal at best. It is a prodigy bill and already in place for vets. Our first responders are vets at war here for us. We need to honor and respect them in the same way. And that was from Jana Holder. And again, this is the least we can do for those that are permanently disabled. I ask that it not be put on the consent calendar because I think some bills are so important that we come down and recognize the people that gave so much for us, and that's why I had it on second readings.
Thank you, Senator Cook. Is there further discussion? President Garcia.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I want to just echo my support for House Bill 1080 and thank the good senator from Weld County. Yeah, I could say for so many who serve this country, it's great to have some of the benefits that they've earned, but we also see day in and day out those who put their lives on the line in EMS and fire and other aspects of public safety, and this bill will help ensure that they have, as the good senator from Weld County shared, opportunities to go out and recreate and enjoy fishing and hunting, small game here in Colorado. And so it's a great bill. I'm honored to be in conjunction with the good senator from Weld County in support of it and ask for an aye vote.
Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Colleagues, it was really powerful to hear about this bill in committee, and it came out of committee unanimous, which normally means that we would put it on consent calendar because it comes with a full voice of support of the committee to the floor. But what was so powerful about this bill was hearing the stories from folks, and so that's why we wanted to hear it just under normal general orders so that we could talk about the impact of this. And this is one of those bills that I think looks simple on its surface, but once you started reading the letters that you got and heard the testimony and the phone calls from the people that will be impacted by this type of legislation, this is one of those bills. It's the reason that we come to this building to do this work. We owe the people that will benefit from this bill owe a debt of gratitude far beyond what this bill exclaims, but it is a step that we can say, sincere thanks for their service. What I will say in concluding remarks on this is I got a phone call on this bill and was able to have a lengthy conversation on what 1080 could mean to folks if it's signed into law. And it was just the simple joys of fishing in the sunlight with your grandkid, or finding some time out on a boat where perhaps you forget about the challenges that you have in life and just go back to those shared pleasures of hoping that a fish tugs the end of the line. So I'm very proud to have voted for this bill in committee and ask for your resounding aye vote on 1080 today. Thank you.
Senator Cook.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I ask for an aye vote as well on 1080.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of House Bill 1080. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and the bill is adopted. Majority Leader Finberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
The motion before the committee is to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the committee will rise and report.
The Senate will come back to order. Senator Fields.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has met and had a number of bills under consideration. Will the clerk please read the report?
Mr. President, your committee will begs the report setting consideration of the following attached bills being second reading thereof makes the following recommendations on House Bill 1217, House Bill 1080, passed second reading order revised place counter for the reading and final passage.
Senator Fields.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the report.
The motion is for the adoption of the committee of the whole report. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, the committee of the whole report is adopted. House Bill 1217, House Bill 1080 passed on second reading and ordered revised and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Consideration of House amendments to Senate bills. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 207?
Senate Bill 207 by Senator Moreno and Representative Escar concerning the provisions for payment of the expenses of the executive, legislative, and judicial departments of the state of Colorado and of its agencies and institutions for and during the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2019, except as otherwise noted.
Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate reject House amendments to Senate Bill 207 and that a conference committee be formed to reconcile the differences between the two houses.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion is that the Senate not concur with House amendments to Senate Bill 207 and that a conference committee be appointed. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, that motion is adopted. Senators Moreno, Chair, and Senators Zenzinger and Rankin are appointed as the Senate conferees on the first conference committee of Senate Bill 207. Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for permission, I move the conference committee be granted permission to go beyond the scope of differences between the two houses.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and that motion is adopted. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to Senate Bill 208.
Senate Bill 208 by Senator Moreno and Representative Zeskar concerning a transfer of money from the State Employee Reserve Fund to the General Fund.
Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate not concur with House amendments to Senate Bill 208 and that a conference committee be formed to reconcile the differences between the two houses.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion is that the Senate not concur with House amendments to Senate Bill 208 and that a conference committee be appointed. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 0 excuse, that motion is adopted. Senators Moreno, Chair, and Senators Zenzinger and Rankin are appointed as the Senate conferees on the First Conference Committee on Senate Bill 208. Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the conference committee be granted permission to go beyond the scope of differences between the two houses.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and that motion is adopted. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to Senate Bill 213.
Senate Bill 213 by Senator Rankin and Representative Ransom concerning transfers from the Marijuana Cash Fund to the Marijuana Tax Cash Fund.
Senator Rankin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate concur with House amendments to Senate Bill 213.
Senator Rankin, please tell us why the Senate should concur with House amendments.
What the House amendment did was allow for the future, perhaps, passage of the sunset of regulation of the marijuana industry. So should that bill pass, then this amendment simply aligns with that. So I ask for concurrence.
Is there further discussion? Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, please forgive our good colleague from Carbondale. He has not forgotten his allegiances to the House. Nevertheless, I ask for concurrence with House amendments.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion is that the Senate concur with House amendments to Senate Bill 213. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, that motion is adopted. Senator Rankin.
I ask for repassage of Senate Bill 213. I move repassage of Senate Bill.
The motion is for the repassage of Senate Bill 213. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, Senate Bill 213 is repassed. Co-sponsors. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to Senate Bill 214.
Senate Bill 214 by Senator Rankin and Representatives Escar and Ransom concerning capital-related transfers of money.
Senator Rankin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate reject House amendments to Senate Bill 214 and that a conference committee be formed to resolve our differences.
Is there further discussion? The motion is that the Senate not concur with House amendments to Senate Bill 214 and that a conference committee be appointed. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, that motion is adopted. Senators Moreno, Chair, and Senators Zenzinger and Rankin are appointed to serve as Senate conferees on the First Conference Committee on Senate Bill 214. Senator Rankin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask that the conference committee be allowed to go beyond the scope. I move that the conference committee be allowed to go beyond the scope to resolve our differences.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and that motion is adopted. Consideration of governor's appointments consent calendar. Will the clerk please read all of the appointments listed on the consent calendar?
Members of the Security Board for terms expiring July 1st, 2021, Thomas H. Kennedy, Carbondale, Colorado, member of the public at large residing west of the Continental Divide, reappointing Keith Michael Olivia, J.D. of Boulder, Colorado, who is licensed in the state of the Supreme Court, practice law, state of Colorado, and who is conversant in securities law, appointed. Members of the State Board of Human Services for terms expiring March 1st, 2023, Constance Connie Emerald of Lakewood, Colorado, serves as a public member, reappointed. Julianne Holligan Westendorf of Durango, Colorado, serves as a county commissioner, reappointed. The Honorable Thomas Crawford Davidson of Dillon, Colorado, to serve as a county commissioner as well as a family member of a person with a disability, reappointed. And John Cafalas of Fort Collins, Colorado, to serve as a county commissioner, appointed. Members of the Colorado Healthcare Affordability and Sustainability Enterprise Chase for a term expiring May 15, 2021. And Catherine Jean Ashenfelter of Denver, Colorado, to serve as an employee of a hospital in Colorado, reappointed. Member of the Charter School Institute Board for a term expiring July 1st, 2021. Antonio Patrick Perez of Denver, Colorado, to serve as a member with experience as a charter school board member or founder of a charter school, experience as a public school administrator with experience working with charter schools, other board or public service experience, and as a Democrat, reappointed. Members of the Board of Trustees for Metropolitan State University of Denver for terms expiring February 1st, 2022. Barbara Barnes Grogan of Denver, Colorado, to serve as Democrat, reappointed. Marissa Molino of Denver, Colorado, to serve as a member who is not affiliated with a political party, appointed. Russell Gordon Knowles of Jersey City, New Jersey, to serve as a Democrat, appointed. Members of the Board of Trustees for Western State Colorado University for terms expiring December 31st, 2022. Eric Marshall Furchow, Gunnison, Colorado, Republican, reappointed. James Charles Pribble of Louisville, Colorado, and Democrat, appointed. Members of the Board of Trustees for the University of Northern Colorado for term expiring December 31st, 2020. Richard L. Montfort of Greeley, Colorado, Republican, reappointed for term expiring December 31st, 2022. Janice Carey Sinden of Evergreen, Colorado, Republican, reappointed. Stephen Moreland Jordan, PhD of Lafayette, Colorado, and affiliated, appointed.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the confirmation of all the appointments and the consideration of governor's appointments consent calendar, including members of the Securities Board, the State Board of Human Services, the Colorado Healthcare Affordability and Sustainability Enterprise, the Charter School Institute Board, the Board of Trustees of Metropolitan State University of Denver, the Board of Trustees for Western State Colorado University, and the Board of Trustees for the University of Northern Colorado.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the adoption of all the governor's appointments listed on the consent calendar. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, all the appointments on the consent calendar are confirmed. The following persons are confirmed: Securities Board, Thomas Keening, Keith Olivia; State Board of Human Services, Constance Rule, Julie Westerndorf, the Honorable Thomas Davidson, John Cafalas; the Colorado Health Affordability and Sustainability Enterprise Chase, Catherine Ashenfelter; the Charter Schools Institute Board, Antonio Paris; the Board of Trustees of Metropolitan State University of Denver, Barbara Gondgan; Marissa Molina; Russell Knowles; the Board of Trustees of Western State Colorado University, Rich Furchow, James Pribble; the Board of Trustees for the University of Northern Colorado, Richard Montfort, Janice Cinder, and Stephen Jordan. Consideration of conference committee reports. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 106?
Senate Bill 106 by Senators Cook and Zenzinger and Representatives Tipper and Larson concerning an additional process by which a Board of County Commissioners may initiate the withdrawal of current employees who are peace officers from a defined contribution retirement plan offered by one or more local governments.
Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate adopt the first report of the first conference committee on Senate Bill 106.
Is there further discussion? Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. President. Basically, what we did at conference, the House changed the bill from 65% of all voting for sheriffs to join FPPA to 65% of those eligible. So at the conference committee, we worked out a good compromise of making it 55% of those eligible that can go from their current retirement plan to FPPA.
Senator Zenzinger.
Also, we adopted a technical conforming amendment that allowed the bill to also make changes with regard to the statutes in FPPA.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion is the adoption of the first report on the first conference committee on Senate Bill 106. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 0 excuse, the report is adopted. Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the repassage of Senate Bill 106. Ask for an aye vote.
The motion is the repassage of Senate Bill 106. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 0 excuse, Senate Bill 106 is repassed. Co-sponsors. Committee reports.
April 8, 2019, Committee on Judiciary after consideration of mayor's conducts the following. House Bill 1149 be referred to committee of the whole with favorable recommendation. April 8, 2019, Committee on Judiciary after consideration of mayor's conducts the following. House Bill 1220 be referred to committee of the whole with favorable recommendation. April 8, 2019, Committee on Judiciary after consideration of mayor's conducts the following. House Bill 1092 be amended as follows. As amended, be referred to committee of the whole with favorable recommendation.
Announcements. Senator Foote.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have an announcement about State Affairs calendar tomorrow, not today, but tomorrow. It's just a change in bill order. The bill order that we'll have tomorrow afternoon in State Affairs will be House Bill 1232, and then Senate Bill 235, and then Senate Bill 225, and then Senate Bill 232. So we're just switching the order by one between 235 and 225. 1232, 235, 225, 232 tomorrow afternoon in State Affairs. Thank you.
Senator Court.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have two announcements. The first one is about the Public Investment Caucus, which is going to be Thursday. You have this flyer, and it's all about severance tax, which I know all of us are thrilled to learn more about. So that's going to be on Thursday. And if you RSVP by close of business tomorrow, they'll give you a free lunch. And isn't that why we're all in this, is for the free food? So that's there. For Finance Committee this afternoon, anyone who is presenting and or on the committee, the calendar is accurate. We will be hearing in this order: Senate Bill 175, Senate Bill 205, Senate Bill 188, Senate Bill 224, and Senate Bill 218. And I suggest that members of the committee either bring dinner or plan to order. And bring your jammies, too. Of course, a lot of this depends on whether the good senator from El Paso County makes speeches or not.
Senator Woodward. Senator Janot.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I ask for a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Members, I want to welcome some special guests from Fort Collins, and they are sitting in the back, and they're also sitting in the balcony. So please stand up, special guests from Fort Collins, from Liberty Common High School. They're here for a day at the Capitol and for a special tribute. But I want to say thank you to your headmaster, former U.S. Congressman Bob Schaefer. And I'm not sure if he's here or if he's in the House at the moment, but also want to recognize Torgan Lovely, principal, Kathleen Carney, assistant principal, and Dr. Robert Robinson, assistant principal for academics. Liberty Common Charter School is a tuition-free charter public school, and it serves about 1,100 students from kindergarten to 12th grade. And its charter education defines its school culture. It's an award-winning school of national prominence, something to be really proud of, Liberty Common School, and we're proud of you down here as well. It's ranked 203 in national rankings And consistently, Liberty Common School has achieved the highest statewide standard test scores ever in the state of Colorado. In fact, in 2018, the senior class broke all-time state SAT records for the tests they took as juniors at 1322. That's awesome. So welcome, and I'm going to turn it over to Senator Woodward.
Senator Woodward.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to continue with a moment of personal privilege.
Continue.
Thank you, Mr. President. The mission statement of Liberty Common High School is to provide excellence and fairness in education through a common foundation. This is achieved by successfully teaching a contextual body of organized knowledge, the values of a democratic society, and the skill of learning. In short, they teach common knowledge, common virtues, and common sense. Although their academic and sports prowess tend to dominate the press, their best attribute is the character and integrity of their students and staff. In fact, they specifically pursue the virtues of patriotism, gratitude, prudence, fortitude, justice, temperance, and wisdom.
Senator Marble.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I would like to read the tribute with this moment of personal privilege to Liberty Commons High School. The Colorado Senate convened in the first regular session of the 72nd General Assembly. Hereby extends heartiest congratulations and commendation to Liberty Common High School, class of 2019. On this day, the members of the Colorado Senate are pleased and proud to honor Liberty Common High School's outstanding achievement on the 2018 SAT College Readiness Assessment. Liberty's achievement not only shows the intellectual strength of the class of 2019, it demonstrates the overall success of the charters. Did I just say charter? Charter Schools Educational Program. Liberty Common High School's composite score of 1322 is the highest of all Colorado public schools and also the highest in Colorado's history. Its excellent student performance is a testament to the quality of education and hard work of the students, instructors, and staff. On request of Senator Joanne Janal, Senator Vicky Marble, and Senator Rob Woodward, given this 9th day of April 2019, State Capitol, Denver, Colorado, signed President of the Senate, Leroy M. Garcia. Congratulations.
Senator Lundin.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I request a moment of personal privilege as well.
Granted.
Thank you very much. I would like to add my voice in welcome to the students from Liberty Common High School. Members, there's about 1 million bright lights across the state of Colorado today, and those bright lights are the students of our state. About 900,000 of them are in public schools, and of course Liberty Common High School is one of those public schools. It's a charter school, and I would argue that in the constellation of schools across the state that holds together all those bright lights, among the brightest stars in that constellation is in fact Liberty Common High School. They are led exceptionally well by a team that is led by former Congressman, friend and colleague, former member of the State Board of Education, Bob Schaefer. It was my honor this fall to, in fact, ruminate with these students on the idea of justice. I was invited by the students at Domus Justitiae, or the House of Justice. They are organized into the various houses which acknowledge the 4 cardinal virtues. But we ruminated on the idea of justice together, and I would encourage each of you, members, if you have an opportunity, interact with these students today, pick their brain, and I challenge you that they will in fact pick your brain as well. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Priola.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I don't know if this is just an announcement or a moment of personal privilege, so I will give the President the ask for either or both. This is more of a public service announcement because if anyone else has a $1 billion prototype I ask that they do not let the good senator from Mesa County drive it. And if someone else also has a good contact for a body shop, if you could put them in touch with the good senator from Mesa County. Thank you.
Senator Priola, that is definitely a good public service announcement. Further announcements. Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. As I've said before, history is important. April 9th is a critically important date in the history of our nation. Today was Palm Sunday in 1865 as General Lee rode his horse into a little village called Appomattox Courthouse and surrendered to General Grant. It was 6 days after the capital, the Confederate capital at Richmond, had fallen, and General Grant, later President Lincoln, entered Richmond. And as General Lee and General Grant negotiated the terms of surrender that day on Sunday, April 9th, they had no way of knowing that our nation was just 6 days shy of one of the saddest days, maybe the saddest day in the history of our nation. The morning of Saturday, April 15th, 1865, Abraham Lincoln breathed his last and left this earth. Thank you, Mr. President, for this opportunity to share a little perspective, reminder of American history, and just ask that we all be in thought and prayer during these 2 weeks that were so historic and impactful to this republic. Thank you, Mr. President.
Further announcements. Senator Todd.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I'd like to request a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you. And I know earlier that Congressman Schaefer was introduced, but he was getting people set up in the House. He is now in the Senate. So Congressman Schaefer, welcome, and we're delighted to have you here, and congratulations on all the accomplishments.
Any further announcements? Seeing none, Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate recess until 12 noon today.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed no. The ayes have it, and the Senate will stand in recess until 1400 today.